Hello and welcome. I'm Sarah, and in this video, I talk with my friend and colleague, Sarah Kleiner, about quantum biology, what it is, and how looking at a quantum lens has been really beneficial for us and our clients. And it's not just about light. We're going to talk about food, about leptin, uh, about electricity, about hormone imbalances. But the main focus of the talk is it's because I went to stay with Sarah for 5 weeks in the US. So we discuss how there isn't really a perfect place to do quantum biology, and you can apply quantum principles, get healthy, get healed in many, many different locations. So we discuss, in particular, what I found was helpful and easier to do in the US versus what I found was a challenge. So let's jump into quantum comparison of the UK and the US. Hello, Sarah. Today we're chatting about the different quantum biology approaches in different latitudes. So I live at the 53rd latitude and you live at the 30th. And I've stayed with you for quite a long time, which was a very big eye-opener, living in the US. So first of all, for people who are completely brand new to quantum biology, how could we sort of describe it to somebody who's heard the word but doesn't know what it is?
It's a good question. I feel like it is a different way of looking at biology from a different lens, not necessarily the biochemical model that we've all been kind of ingrained in. And I know you in your background as a PhD studied at length and extensively. So it's a different way of looking at how the body works and how the body responds to things like temperature, light. We do a lot around light. Grounding, how electrons flow through the body, how the body can gather electrons, understanding water, a huge emphasis on water, easy water inside of our bodies, and then water that's outside the body as well. And just that's my take on it. I know you might have a totally different take or view on it, but that's how I would explain it if someone asked me.
Oh no, I agree because I think so that people know we've both had a sort of complicated, turbulent life, and we've been down so many rabbit holes. So I think quantum biology is using physics to explain biology because everything or lots of things do work from all kinds of therapies. For example, sort of sound therapy, traditional Chinese medicine, different ways of eating, of course, light grounding, sometimes supplements work, sometimes medication works. And I think to me, quantum biology means having a lens to filter through what's impossible and just the placebo effect and what is actually a genuine phenomenon in the body, because I'd never dismiss other people's approaches or techniques, but I just like to understand it in terms of protons and electrons and mitochondria. And even though I have training in movement, I still also now look at movement through a quantum lens because when we move fascia, we make electrons, and also fascia is piezoelectric. And also, interestingly, when we move in the day, the mitochondria produce melatonin at the same time as we're moving in order to protect themselves. So I find this particularly interesting because people may have heard talk about exercising in blue light and how it actually completely undoes all of your workout. However, exercising in the correct light is how it should be. And I just think that's really interesting about the mitochondria and the melatonin, because also another aspect of quantum biology is circadian rhythms and body clocks. And if that's broken and you've got a bad body clock, every single clock in your body down to your cells is going to run badly. So you're not going to be
Mhm.
very good at detoxing, protecting yourself, metabolism. So in a way, it's sort of another angle to help people with problems, because obviously we work with clients and we've had our own journeys, so we know there's a big list of things that people come with: hormone imbalances, anxiety, weight problems, autoimmunity, pain. And I think that quantum biology is a really good way to look at these old problems to get new solutions, but also it makes you be able to go back in time and dig out old therapies that have been around for 100 years. Like my current rabbit hole is carbon dioxide, but then some of the people that we know specialize in techniques that have been around for thousands of years.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's a a really great and empowering way of looking at your health. And it's not as limiting as, again, this kind of biochemical model that that's all that's been available to us if we've gone through the allopathic world. And even the functional medicine model is largely still based on this biochemical model. So I think a lot of people come to quantum health and circadian biology with these broken body clocks, with cells that are extremely confused and dehydrated, and do a lot of the simple things that you and I talk about in the scope of health and see tremendous results, and are able to stop putting all their focus on the supplements. And, not to say those never have a place, but there's less of an emphasis on what you're ingesting, what you're putting in your body, and more of an emphasis on how do we support the organism to run more efficiently, to bring more electrons into the body, to expand exclusion zone water in the body. How do we do that? And how does that enhance health? And I think that as people who work with a lot of people, we've seen firsthand for ourselves, anecdotally, but also with a large sample size of people, that these modalities are absolutely life-changing for a host of different health complications. So it's definitely a topic that I think is up and coming. And I think it will, as time goes on, I think more and more people are open to hearing about it, because that old biochemical model is failing people.
Oh, definitely, because I think you touched on something I was going to go into, which is leptin, because that's
Mm.
your area of expertise, along with many other things, including teaching yoga. And also, again, with leptin, we need all these electrons, but we also need them
Mm-hmm.
to be charged up with light, the
Mm-hmm.
photoelectric effect. So quantum biology isn't woo-woo. It's sort of founded on people like Einstein, Niels Bohr's work, David Bohm. So it is very scientific, although we don't go into the maths like that with people, because again, if you've got lots of electrons and they're fully charged with light, then according to your body, you've got a good energy store. And I think anybody who has struggled with their weight will categorically tell you that it doesn't defy the laws of thermodynamics, that they do move, they do eat less, and they get bigger, and
Mm-hmm.
they move a lot, don't eat very much, lose weight, and then their hormones just go splat, and then the weight comes back. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something that, again, we could talk about here, because I know people are interested in food and hormones and leptin, and I think there's several things I wanted to tell people about from doing quantum biology in different countries. And I think the main
Mm-hmm.
thing I want people to get from this is you can do quantum biology anywhere. There isn't a
Yes.
perfect place to live. I've tried loads. I haven't yet been to the equator, just because I think my mum and dad would freak out so much at El Salvador and Mexico at the moment. Although my mum might go to Costa Rica, that I think it's to explain to people there's so many things you can do, even somewhere cold and dark like the UK.
Yeah, and I think that gets lost in the quantum biology and circadian biology world. A lot of times people say you have to move. It's not going to work unless you're in direct sun year round at the equator. And number one, I think there's some biological I think that's incorrect biologically. If you think about our mitochondria, the people that have that extreme northern haplotype, doesn't make sense. That type of person would never live on the equator year round and be exposed to that sort of light. Um, and it's not practical as well. A lot of people can't just pick up and move and quit their job and do these things that is like, you have to do this, now if someone gets in a really terrible health situation, it might be something to consider. I'm not going to say take it off the table. It's a stupid idea, but there are ways, like you said, of implementing these strategies anywhere in the world, right?
Yeah, definitely. And also another important thing, which we'll probably talk about, is that you can buy extremely expensive equipment, or you can behave like I do, because like I don't like spending money, but I will on something. An object is my thing, but I'll choose very carefully my red light panel. And I happen to I've got Kelly Bento's 4 wavelength panel at home, and I massively missed that when I came to yours, because even though you had a gigantic red light panel, which I'm sure would be beneficial for somebody else, I just found it too much. And then when I was interacting with your children, I had a portable red light that they didn't mind, but they ran away from the big light. So
Mm-hmm.
again, like you just said, for somebody who needs a huge amount of red light, the giant panel would have been brilliant. But then for me personally, Kelly Bento's light, I missed that. And then the other thing I didn't have when I came to visit you is I didn't have my Magnetico to sleep on.
Mm.
And I think that's really useful for somebody who lives in an urban area, because with grounding in an urban area and grounding sheets, which you mustn't plug in the wall, you can't really even plug in them in the garden either, just because of you'll become the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried that loads of times at yours, putting the grounding pole in the garden, and every single time I didn't sleep properly.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried it at least 4 times. And then again, some people like PMF beds and other people don't, because I know your daughter loves it and she'd have 20 if she could. But then
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't keen, really, but I'm not closed-minded to it. And I think one of the differences, obviously, that people know about between the latitudes is that there's way more sun in Georgia. So maybe if you want to talk about the weather there, because I know I was laughing at you earlier because it's actually colder where you are at the moment. Our weather's better, but then because
Yeah.
you've got pretty much vitamin D all year round, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the UV index goes down to like 1, 2. So you really would have to like lay outside naked like all the entire day to get any vitamin D, like to synthesize any. But we do have UVB year round here. It's actually the 33rd latitude. But if you go like a few hours north, no UVB. And that's for most of the northern hemisphere. Uh, Come October, November, just depending on where you live. The further north that you live, the faster that UVB goes away. And then the UV index has to be a little bit higher in order for you to not have to spend hours and hours outside, like I mentioned, pretty much naked in order to actually get any vitamin D. But we do have stronger UV here in this latitude than you do where you live in the UK.
Yeah, definitely. And also there is a function of how much UV light, particularly A or just solar yield, can dictate how much and when you can eat carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's something that causes big confusion. Because I don't think there's anything evil, any molecules that are evil. I think it's all about context, environment, and balance. And I think that was something that normally where I'd live, I would be really careful with carbohydrates. And then when I came to visit you, that there were just times because it was really sunny that I
Mm-hmm.
just got massively cranky and I didn't know why. There was no reason for it. And then you just suggested, oh, hang on, maybe it's like a carb thing because they are allowed here because we had loads of sunny days and there was definitely
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to make vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
I checked my levels and also I have the D minder. I know it's not completely accurate, but it'll do and it's a good place to start. So maybe if you want to talk a bit about sort of circadian eating in different places and people's idea that carbs are evil.
Yeah, I mean, I used to hold that idea as well. The carbs were evil, and a carnivore diet was really very helpful for me to help reset my gut, my immune system, and to get rid of lifelong bloating and constipation, gut issues. But the problem is, I think I did it too long. I think it's meant to be done for short spurts of time. And like I said, it was amazing for my gut and getting rid of the bloating and the horrible issues that I was having. But I live in an area where we do have a good amount of sunlight. And after a while, my body started having a negative reaction from restricting carbs year round. And it was kind of like a inflammation, just not a good thing. And so that's when I started. And it was after I had talked with Jack and I had really started learning about leptin. I started learning about deuterium. One of the things that strong UV light does is it helps the body to deplete deuterium. And so if you are in an area where there is more UV light and you're leptin sensitive, because I've been working on my leptin sensitivity for years now, after since I met Jack and since I went through the whole fertility journey to get pregnant with my son James, who is now 15 months old. And so I've been doing the leptin thing for a while, becoming very leptin sensitive. And so when there is a bunch of UV light and there's strong UV, I do eat some carbohydrates and I do cycle them in. A lot of times I still do eat pretty low carb keto. I feel better that way. However, if I don't have those cycle days, especially when we do have all this UV, I start to not feel well. And so I think it's about um, developing some metabolic flexibility, and that helps you remain leptin sensitive as well. And knowing when it is time to sprinkle some of those foods in to again maintain that metabolic flexibility in your body. And I think it can be really helpful for people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just to add to the deuterium depletion, that also cold thermogenesis can help deplete deuterium as well, because
Mm-hmm.
in very simple terms, it sort of contracts the electron transport chain. So the electrons can flow down more efficiently. And then they're obviously going to be able to pass through complex 4 and
Mm-hmm.
pump out more deuterium depleted water and in effect sort of flush you out from the inside. But also, again, I haven't got any issues with any kinds of ways of eating. I just think if it's working for somebody, keep
Mm-hmm.
doing it. But sometimes people can get ridiculously strict with keto
Mm-hmm.
or plant-based or
Mm-hmm.
carnivore, to the point where it's actually taking over their life
Mm-hmm.
mentally, and it's not working anyway. So that's definitely a time to, like you say, because you mentioned temperature at the beginning, to look into other factors that could be affecting the hormones.
Yeah, and that's one huge thing that I think gets lost in the diet community. I was telling you before I started recording, I put up a video today, and the guest that I had on was talking about smoothies and vegetables and nuts and seeds and these things being like health promoting. And a lot of my audience is more animal based, which I'm still heavily animal based, and I don't really eat nuts and seeds and those types of things any time of the year, honestly. But they were like all upset about it, and I'm like, the foundations of light, the foundations of your letting your body make this deuterium depleted water and looking at things through the lens of deuterium is a lot more important than getting lost in the dogma and the minutia of, this diet versus this diet, plant-based versus carnivore versus vegan versus whatever. It's a much bigger picture than that, and it's more based upon what's the light doing where you live, how strong is that UV light, how much are you outdoors, right? Because you could just be in this beautiful UV rich environment, but you're indoors all day behind windows, so you're not getting any of it, so your body not really going to benefit anyway. And looking at those other signals that you're giving your body, remembering that food is a signal, and the health of the mitochondria, the health of your hormones, everything is all about the signals that you are giving the body, much more than just like dogma around this food versus that food. It's so much more it's I want to say it's more simple than people want to believe, and it's not going to get you the clicks and views, but it is a little bit more simple than I think we're being led to believe in the diet world.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of two other things when I visited the States: the noise pollution, because I did an
Mm-hmm.
interview with Dr. Catherine Clinton, who we both know, who's wonderful. And I already knew about noise and cortisol levels. So, again, that's something else to push your blood sugar up and to affect your metabolism. And
Mm-hmm.
also, there's much bigger blue light or artificial light pollution, maybe not in all of the US. I have been to quite a lot of places, and I did notice it's much more lit than the UK, because when I was at yours, we had Thanksgiving and it was going into Christmas, and pretty much all the houses had Christmas lights,
Mm-hmm.
lots of them, and people used to leave all of their lights on like outside overnight. Then there was like your neighbor had put lights all the way around the garden, whereas
Mm-hmm.
I think I showed you a photo of my area and there was nobody with even Christmas lights up. Yes, we've got street lights here, which are a nuisance. So that drove me absolutely berserk, because I was sticking stuff to like my window and like mylar, trying to block it out, because in the beginning I just didn't realize, and I couldn't shut the window in the
Oh
bedroom
yeah.
either. So I had a few bad sleeps, and then I realized that it was the blue light. Then
Mm-hmm.
there was leaf blowers, then there was just general, that there was construction. Like in the UK, it's very regulated about construction, so anybody from UK listening knows all about planning permission, whereas in the US I've had numerous people telling me about building projects happening that go on for over a year, and it just
Oh
completely
yeah.
destroys their peace. So that was a problem as well. Because where I'm going with this is that even though you had more, there was more sun, and I've been told so many times to go somewhere sunny, there were other problems that caused metabolic issues, as in
Mm-hmm.
blue light raises cortisol,
Cortisol and
and then the
insulin.
sound. First of all, that you can make noise in the US from it started at 7 a.m., didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yep.
I can't remember. We had to look up what the
The noise
county.
ordinance is
Yeah,
from
and
7 a.m. until 11 p.m.
yeah,
Because some nights we would be out or we'd be up and we'd be like, oh my God, it is still going. And now that you've left, it's gone. It's totally quiet over there. We don't have that. They're not doing construction anymore. We're probably going to have a different issue of them having parties, but we've only had one of those so far on New Year's. But yeah, the construction noise, that's a huge thing that I think that a lot of people kind of just like learn to tune it out. But because I'm so sensitive um, to noise, to just light, to these things, and that happened more so when I got more in tune with my circadian rhythms and more in tune with quantum lifestyle. Yeah, it was definitely something that was driving up the cortisol was that the construction noise.
yeah, definitely. And then the other thing I'll bring up is because I like looking at prices of things, and also I was always commenting, "Oh, this lamb's double the price of the UK," and because we there was a place we bought all of the meat from. There was the ancestral blend, and it was
Mm-hmm.
really good quality grass fed. And you can get that all over the world, but I think inflation's very real in the US. But because there was a seafood shop up the road that was very reasonable. I have noticed that seafood is cheaper by far in the UK, and
Mm.
there were things there like crawfish, which I really liked, and all sorts of other things. And I think there's many things that get demonized. And I did an interview with Dr. Michael Crawford, the DHA expert, and he said the FDA recommends 2 fish a week. And when they've done studies on mothers and studies over many decades, they found that a lack of fish and DHA it's a severe problem, and
Mm.
people's brains are shrinking, IQ is going down. There's obviously other things, but I was just saying for people who often a barrier people will say to eating well is, oh, I can't afford it, which leads me to something else. When I was at yours, because of time and stuff that goes on,
Mm-hmm.
there often wasn't time to eat things. So
Mm-mm.
again, when it comes to sort of metabolic changes in the body, because I should have checked my weight when I was there, but because we saw each other every day, you can't tell if you gain or lose weight. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I nearly walked in on the sauna and the shower, and I was naked in your garden quite a lot. And your husband doesn't watch this channel anyway, so he won't.
No.
So, but then I was telling you that when I got back to the UK, I lost about 6 pounds for, I was there could have been lots of reasons, but I think
Hmm.
one of them was your electricity grid's different. It's 60
Mm.
hertz in the US, and I have passed this around to art because the mitochondria function on it's 100 hertz harmonic, and the UK is at 50, and I have heard certain people say that the 60 hertz is worse for sort of fat metabolism and the 50 hertz is worse for autoimmunity and other things. But there's definitely a difference between that. And I have many times heard of Americans that have gone to Europe on holiday, eaten exactly the
Mm-hmm. To
same
lose
food,
weight.
weight. But
Mm-hmm.
then we don't know whether was it the food, was it getting away from the noise, the blue light and stuff in the US. So we don't know. And also it's significantly colder here. Well, it was when I got back, and I don't like turning the heating on, and I open the windows. And also something else is there's much more darkness here.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
at the worst it was like 7 hours of daylight, and again cortisol is a light driven hormone. So when was back here, I've been in a pretty I was in a good mood at yours, but I've been like really chilled and happy considering it's the middle of winter. And I think part of it is just really honoring and using the darkness properly, because that was something I really missed when I was at yours. um
Yeah.
so
Yeah, because the children the children don't let you sleep here. And so you were sleeping on the very bottom floor. And so there were some nights where one of them was up and it'd be like elephants running above your above your room, just shrieking, just like, yeah, it can be rough here and it's harder. I've got blue blockers, circadian lighting. try to do as many things as I can to mitigate that, but you're still not able to like get total darkness and get total sleep because you have these things called children that are also circadian disruptors.
Oh, absolutely. But I think anybody with children will resonate with that because they always want to
Mhm.
have projectile vomiting at like 2 a.m. It's never like in the daytime. And but also the other thing about kids is it's like you can play with them and we did spend a lot of time running after them and you've got like
Mhm.
a loads of stairs. So we that's another thing. We'd never counted how many steps we did in a day because literally the number of times we ran up and down those stairs and with a toddler, he's
Mhm.
literally running after. And then I used to like walking your dog as well. So that was something I kept complaining about. There's no sidewalk. And, I didn't really trust my grounding shoes. I used my very minimal ones. I didn't want to just ground to the electrics. And then obviously there's
Mhm.
the traffic problem of your husband getting really concerned I was going to get decapitated collecting the mail or we'd both get run over by the traffic. So I think that's again something. And the traffic, oh, the train as well. It was
Oh
like I was
yeah.
just thinking, where are all these people driving at this time? And why is that? Because the train used to honk like at,
In the middle of the night.
yeah, all the time. And it's like, I don't just STFU,
Yep.
it was kind of bonkers. And then the other thing I think, because this is sort of like a man thing as well, that I really got on with your husband, and I gave up artificial sweeteners ages ago and sodas, but I do really like soda, and because of just sort of for socialness, we used to just crack open sodas as if we were having a beer together, and we have like really sort of serious chats about putting the world to rights and politics and parenting and it was like two men with beer but
Yeah.
it wasn't just one or two because he's a really generous man and then it ended up being, oh, I've got a different flavor to try, a different flavor, and then some days we could have easily had three sodas and I think as soon as I got back to the UK I stopped it and I did read a paper the other day about how artificial sweeteners, a big collection of them, interfere with
Mhm.
POMC, which is a major signaling um, precursor, we could say, for leptin. And I think
Yep.
from clinical experience, we have found that a lot of people do everything right, but they still have stevia. It was stevia that was
Mhm.
in the sodas that we drank. So what's
Yeah,
your
Zevia. I can't. I think those are so gross. Like I can't drink them. My husband loves them, but I guess I'm lucky. I am repulsed by the Zevia sodas. But yeah, he loves them, and I have seen a couple of different mechanisms that the artificial sweeteners can really impact leptin in a negative way. So I recommend people stay away from those. Um, if they're trying to regain leptin sensitivity. But yeah, my husband is definitely, I mean, he's pretty leptin sensitive. He might be a little too leptin sensitive sometimes. I think he's just doesn't have a weight problem at all. Um, and so I'm not really super worried about his leptin sensitivity and the soda drinking. Is if that's the worst thing he does, he doesn't drink beer, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't do any of the negative male habits you hear about, the chew tobacco or any of that stuff. So if he wants to have a couple of stevia sweetened sodas, like, okay, you know?
well, also on an emotional level, because there's also the sort of consciousness and being kind to yourself side of quantum
Mm-hmm.
biology. I think the benefits that we got from having chats with our
Mm-hmm.
pretend beers in a way outweighs that because stevia's bad, but there are much worse artificial sweeteners. And I think it's like we used to say all the time about finding joy in something. And I found great joy in buying random things for your children, like and you did as well, like
Mm-hmm.
the helium balloons, and there's all
Yeah.
sorts of things. And it's I really made the most of having somebody else's kids that I could give back. So
Yeah.
but I think also the whole sort of quantum entanglement and connection, because it was like I'd known you and your husband all my life, and it could have easily gone horribly wrong. We could have met, and in 24 hours, I would be back on the airplane back to
Right.
Manchester. But it was one of these really interesting sort of consciousness and quantum entanglement um, sort of experiences. And I think the take home was there isn't anywhere, there's always, no matter where you live, there's always going to be some barrier or problem. And I have
Hmm.
worked out in all my travels is that sometimes I don't have a magnetico, and sometimes I've got loads of sun, sometimes it's absolutely freezing, and I'll really go to town on using the cold, because that's really good for leptin
You
sensitivity
did
as
you
well.
did that at my house, and I couldn't even use my cold plunge until after you left because you
Oh yeah.
that I have a Morosco forge and it makes ice, but I've never really utilized that feature because I just don't like it to go much lower than 40 degrees. And to get
Mm.
the to make the ice, you have to get it down to, and this is Fahrenheit, you have to get it down to like 30, 32. But you had gotten it full of ice and then you were going in like 3 times a day, which is something I would never tell anyone to do. But I felt like you were so in tune with like, I mean, there was not a single morning, I don't think, that we were not outside at sunrise, even if it was cold or raining. Like we would, that was kind of when we'd both kind of like, you know, we'd both be out there every morning, and then the blue blockers would come on every single night. And so I feel like you could get away with a lot more
Oh
than
no,
just that.
it did mess me up. And also the other
It
thing,
did or it didn't.
yeah, I did. I was going to get to that because I think
Okay.
the other important thing is your daughter doesn't like wearing shoes, and neither do
No.
I. So I
Mm-mm.
didn't wear very much shoes or clothes, yet still it didn't over with the cold plunge. I was experimenting. You were right, because I think is, first of all, I found out that I was just doing it too early in the day and too much and getting stressed out, and then I blamed the
Mm-hmm.
coffee.
Oh
Which
yeah.
and then there was times when we would, something would happen in the morning and we wouldn't have any breakfast, and then we blamed that. Well, I blamed that, and then I realized, oh, hang on a minute, you're just doing this ridiculous temperature at too early.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just, like you said, changed it. But the thing is, I just couldn't go in it for that long, because in a way, I think it's a bit more like cryotherapy when it's like zero point 0.5, because that'll be zero point 0.5 degrees C, and then it was like 33 F. That I'm
Mm-hmm.
more of a, I'd rather go in longer but a bit warmer. So
Yeah.
and I think it's really interesting to try that. I also used to really enjoy smashing the ice because it would make
Oh
great
yeah.
icebergs. So I'd have to get them out, and it's really therapeutic just to smash things. And I'd put all the ice back in. So it definitely has a benefit. But also I tried to get your husband to put his leg in it because he had a bad knee, and I used to
Mm-hmm.
chase him round the house with red light lamps, because every time we made him do it, he'd say, "Oh, it's so much
So
better," but
much
he wouldn't
better.
do
Yep.
it himself.
Yeah. And Kelly sent me another torch, which he started using because that was sometimes the only way I could get him to do the red light was using the torch that Kelly Bento sent. Because getting him in front of the panel, he would, oh, I don't have time and complain about it. But like, yeah, that was one of the things. You came at a time when things were really stressful in my house, and they're still crazy, but I would say they were at like peak stress with my daughter, and it was just nuts. And you were kind of like, all right, I'm coming. Like we've never met each other in person before. And you're like, I'm coming. And my husband was like, are you sure she's not a serial killer? I'm
I
like,
can't believe you're going to say that. Yeah,
he was just like, why does this woman from the UK want to come? Like, why? And I'm like, she is supposed, I don't know if she wants to come help. And we've gotten to be close, and you were helping me run my group. And it was like, okay, come, hurry up, get here now. And it was immediately like I had known you my whole life, or even just in another lifetime. It was like immediately a comfort thing. But when you got here, one of the things that you did, which was really helpful, was like, Sara, get back to your quantum stuff, like get back to your red light panel. Cause I had just gotten so overwhelmed with my daughter and her health problems that I had kind of, stopped doing a lot of the things for myself. And so that was one of the things that you were like, all right, get back in front of your red light panel, get in the cold plunge. Let's go hiking on your mountain. We got to go to my mountain a few times because that was one thing I haven't been back since you've left. I'm hoping to eventually get to do that. But that's one of the things that was really helpful about you being here is like having a quantum buddy, and then to explain it to my husband as to why it's important. And the blue blockers at night, I finally had a friend to wear blue blockers with at night, and not look like the crazy one. And then my husband would turn, the first night that you got there, he was like all concerned because the house was really dark inside.
oh
And
yeah.
he was like, let me turn on some of these lights. And you were like, no, 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 no. And I was like, no, 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 don't do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I turn my electricity. That's the other thing I can do. I can control every single electric in my house, and I can turn it all off if I want, and I can be in complete darkness. But in saying that of me being the murderous British person, my mum thought that I was going to get murdered by you and your husband anyway. So it both it's like a quantum thing that it was. They were my dad's got distant relatives in Atlanta, and he's been to Stone
Mm.
Mountain. He was really glad I went, and also he said you're going to get a big shock when you go, but it'll be really
Hmm.
helpful on another level. So yes, it was. There's so many quantum things that we could talk about because obviously there's the cosmic tower,
Oh
and
yeah.
we're kind of running out of time because you're running an event and I'm participating in it. And it's, do you want to tell people about it? Because it's a really good opportunity to really dive in properly with what we've talked about, but we've also not talked about quite a lot of other uh, aspects of quantum and our colleagues that we do their stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, so Carrie Bennett, I know she's your community knows her, my community knows her. We're running a health transformation summit, and we've collected our pick of people who we think really have the most interesting things to deliver to the community about like structured water, easy water. Carrie just did a talk on easy water. Things like light, why is that important for the mitochondria? Things like breathing, how that's important for mitochondria. We just kind of have collected our favorite people. I think it's about 20 people at this point, and looking at health from the quantum lens, so that people that are listening to this are like, okay, I want to learn more about this. I want to implement more of these things in my life. Because for me, I don't know about you, I think so, but these principles of quantum biology, circadian biology have actually given me a lot of freedom, as I was alluding to earlier, of not being caught in a diet camp or a war, but understanding my health through the lens of quantum biology and circadian biology, and knowing that it can be done anywhere all over the world. And so that's really the goal of the summit. So it's free to sign up and to watch if you want to watch it live. And then if anyone wants to get the lifetime pass, you will also get about $2,000 worth of courses with that lifetime pass. And my circadian health for the busy person course, which is 147 retail, is included in there. Carrie has about 3 webinars that are worth $300 that are in there. And then every single one of our speakers, including you, have contributed a course or an ebook. So it's like a ridiculously huge value. And then anybody who gets that lifetime pass is also entered into a contest to win a bundle of one of my courses. This has all my courses worth like $1,200. One of Carrie's bundle of all of her courses, a red light therapy panel from Kelly Bento, who we talked about a few times in this chat, as well as a $500 gift pack of blue blockers and things from Viva Rays. So Carrie and I are super excited about it because we just really want to make this information more accessible and available to as many people as possible. Because, like I said, it really frees up a lot of your headspace and you feel better, and so I like I said, I appreciate the chat and the time, but I think it's important that people can access this information, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it just triggered a thought in my mind about when I was in the US that the astronomical cost of healthcare because
Oh,
people on all the
and you
meds.
saw how bad it is
Oh
here.
yeah, and I saw the prices of that for consultations, and I think anything that anybody can do, whether it's even something like
Hmm.
a long time ago for me, it was just learning to teach Pilates because it got rid of
Hmm.
all my back and neck pain because you feel very trapped if you've got some kind of health issue because
Pain and
first
health
of all you
issue.
think you're not going to get better, and secondly
Hmm.
you're always dependent on somebody else, and prices just go up and up. And I think
Hmm.
it'll resonate with people in the US, but sometimes you need to go out of your own country and look and see what healthcare and medication prescriptions and prices are like, and then you learn a lot more about or understand. But I think pretty much everybody will think, oh, I don't want to spend a fortune on my health. I don't want to get a chronic illness or a terminal
Hmm.
illness. I don't want to be stuck on medication because I don't even know what it's doing. So I think
Right.
even if people think this might be woo woo, that there's vast amounts of science backing up a lot of the quantum biology. But I just think on a sort of giving advice as a friend, it's always very liberating to be able to fix yourself, even
Yeah.
if you need a practitioner to guide you, the fact that you can be independent. And like we were saying, a lot of the quantum biology practices are free. Well, they're all free. And then, like I was saying, I don't like buying one-to-ones. I like buying an object that I can have forever. And even somebody on not a big budget, there's small versions of all the things we've taught and secondhand versions of lots of expensive things. And I think sometimes you just need to know you don't know what you don't know, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the more people that can understand this information, the better, because yeah, you got to see firsthand the healthcare system here and how it's like a black hole a lot of the time. And then, like my son had this little skin condition, and I
Oh, yeah.
went to the doctor and they were like, steroids. He needs oral steroids and topical. And I was like, I'm calling my homeopath.
And I was like,
No,
I'm calling some UK general
you call
practice.
everyone. And
And
they actually recommended the homeopathy, the
yeah,
same.
one of them did, and Dr. Neil just said not necessary, and he replied in 2 minutes. And normally he's a bit slow, and he was like, no, 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 not necessary.
Right. And guess what? I did the homeopathy. His skin's totally clear now. The little issue is totally gone. And I did not do steroids, but that's how we treat things here in the States. And where the medical system is going is like, let's suppress it. And even if it could be the wrong suppressive therapy, but let's just suppress it and charge you your copay and move on. And so this is a much more empowering way of looking at health, and hopefully will be helpful for the people that watch.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also the US, along with lots of other countries, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's massive, and it's much easier to find nature. I mean, even if you
Mm-hmm.
live in the city, there's plenty of countryside in different states. I'm not going to sort of name or shame any places, but it's very easy to just get away from it all. It can be difficult for people in the UK, somewhere like London, but still we're a
Mm-hmm.
much smaller country, so relatively the distances are smaller. And I think sometimes people think, oh, I can't be bothered. Whereas once you learn all of the physics of what going out in the country actually does, like the Schumann resonance and sort of charging up with electrons, getting away from non-native EMFs, being outside all day, camping, it makes you understand, oh, this could be the sort of key piece in my jigsaw. And also you get addicted to nature and quantum biology, but in a good
Mm-hmm.
way. So it's not like trying to stick to a diet. You actually just do it because your body's naturally designed to behave like that, so it'll crave or just make you do it. Because I don't, with people who are new to it, sometimes the sunrise is a barrier, but once you
Mm-hmm.
get into it, I get really agitated. Oh, I'm not doing a Zoom call because I'll miss the sunrise. Or
Right.
no, I've woken up a bit early, but I'm just gonna stay in the dark. I'll listen to a podcast or meditate. I'm not touching, but it becomes
Not
quite,
touching the phone. Yeah.
yeah. And it's not an ordeal. Whereas for people
Mm-mm.
who've been who struggle with their weight, because we both have, once
Mm-hmm.
people start, the diet starts off okay, but then it starts to sort of close in on you and restrict you, and it's different when you follow a quantum approach. And then I have
Mm-hmm.
found that I've completely forgotten about food, partly because there's other things more important, but also I've reframed it in my mind as electrons and hydrogen and information.
Yes.
And then once you understand about the light and the grounding and the leptin, it does give you more freedom. And I think it's important to be able to understand things at the physical level or physics, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
wade through all the BS online, because I've got
Yes.
no issues whatsoever with people being entrepreneurs or running a business, but I have got an issue with people making up nutritional misinformation because they want to sell something
Yeah.
that's good for the public to start with, and they feed them misinformation about drinks and different foods. And I think when you understand the quantum approach, you can work it out for yourself. And that goes for
Yeah.
supplements as well.
Yeah. 100%. So I feel like it's just empowerment all around. And yeah, there's a lot of, because we get them in our groups. You have a private group. I have a private group. You help me in my private group. And people come in there and they're like, I saw this podcast. I heard this video. This person says this. But I'm like, stop. Just stop. Like, let's look at it from the lens of circadian biology, quantum biology. And then does that make sense? Does that actually make sense? A lot of times, no. A lot of times, maybe there's a half truth in there, but you know what does Jack always say? A half truth is still a lie. So it really does free up a lot of headspace when you begin to make the shift and look at things at this lens, you know. So I hope this was helpful for people, and hope people will come to the summit and learn more. You are including in the gift package your food choice, the food
Yes,
list,
and
right?
yes, deuterium, and I'll probably add in a little bit of my minerals course as well.
Oh,
But
nice.
regarding the summit, it starts on the 25th, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
it?
Yeah, starts on the 25th. You have up until the 30th to get that lifetime pass. So if you're like, I just want to sign up for free and see the chats, you know, you can sign up for free and watch all the talks live. And then if you're like, oh, I really want that gift package with all these things, you've got to do a list of deuterium foods
Yeah.
in yours, which is people ask me for that all the time. How much is so you already
Okay.
have that laid out for people who get that gift package. So you can get the gift package if you sign up for free and get it later, or you can say, you know what, I want to go ahead and get it now and sign up with the gift package. You could do it both ways. So
What happens if somebody wants to buy the package in February? I mean, they'll obviously have missed the prize draw, but will this package be, say, if somebody watches this video in 3 weeks, will they have the opportunity to be able to purchase what they've missed because, or do they have to do it as soon as possible? The
Carrie and I are
buyer.
talking about doing an encore weekend.
Okay.
And so we're kind of still working out the details of that. So for as of right now, as of the day we're recording this and it'll go out, if you really want this now, then you'll definitely want to do it before the 25th. But we are talking about a way of making it evergreen so people can get it after the fact. But
They'll
more will
definitely
be,
miss. They'll miss the prize draw
and the
if
live Q&A. There's a
at the
live
live.
Q&A on the 30th,
But then just because of
and the
algorithm,
prize draw. Yeah.
if somebody happens to watch this in a year's time and thought, oh, I really wanted to go to that, you'll be having other ones, but also it's the kind of
Yes.
thing they could reach out to me, you or Carrie, or you and Carrie, and you might be able to find them something. But basically, if people want to book, they need to do it as soon as possible. And the cutoff day is the 30th of January.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay,
And
great.
if we do decide to have it evergreen so they could buy it after the fact, then the link that you put under your show description, and I'm going to post this on my channel, those links will still work. So you can always go down, try the link out. If it works, then cool. We decided to do it evergreen. If it doesn't, then stay tuned for an encore presentation where we may have some more cool gifts to give away and things like that, and added speakers, because we are talking about adding more speakers down the road. Because some people, we recorded everything during the holidays, and there were a couple people that we really wanted that couldn't do it because of holiday commitments. So we do have plans to add more speakers and different things down the road. So stay tuned.
Great. Well, it's been a fun chat, and I'll see you, I think, in person again in March. Well, I did say I was
Wonderful.
coming today, because it's so cold there, and I love the cold, but I think my cat would mind if I left at the
If you
moment.
left again, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, thank you, Sarah. It's been lots of fun.
Thank you very much for watching, and the links to the free and the VIP or paid summit are in the description. If you want to work with me, ask questions, get some help with your health, then the link to my membership group is also in the description.